assemble your teams. There is much to be done.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is another 5-0 Gauntlet video brought to you by Midnight CCGs. This time we're going to be featuring a Egyptian deck for the Gauntlet Colossal. Now, the basis of this deck is really just the synergy I thought of between Osiris and the occult archer guy. And what you're really trying to do is, by getting back enough of those archers through the Osiris power that allows him to bring an afterlife character back to play at the start of every turn, you will be able to bring back characters into your hand with that occult ability. So you can even bring back people, although it is a step or two away, you're able to bring your Isis, you're able to bring your Anubis and your Neith back by being able to use your graveyard as just a big recycling center. It's really a very strong deck, and I believe all 5 of the games that I recorded ended up being only about 20 minutes of footage. So to give you an idea about how powerful I think this deck is, and if you have the cards, I think you'll have a lot of success with this deck as well. Outside of the main synergy between Osiris and Occult Deadeye, we have a lot of synergy with the newly renovated Celestial Armor, which allows any of your characters, when targeted, to spawn a 4/4 version of themselves, and that's a lot stronger when you realize what targeting means. If an opponent even attacks the creature, a 4/4 is spawned. And I had a lot of success casting this on my Osiris. I didn't end up being able to get this in any of the games for the Gauntlet, but in the casual games I played before, it was extremely strong. The other powerful combo I was able to use with the armor was powering up the Occult Deadeyes. And then, because of the Book of Thoth, I ended up getting some of the cards that let me give one of my creatures afterlife, and then also the one that makes 1/1s spawn around my creature when it dies. So basically, I believe it was in the 3rd or 4th game, I ended up having like 4 to 6 Occult Deadeyes on the board over a couple turns, and the entire time all my gods that were dying were basically just coming back to my hand. And when you get to a situation like this, the opponent's really going to be put back, because they're going to be trying to fight away at all your archers that, again, they're ranged units, so he has to get to them to kill them first, and as they're building up, it becomes harder and harder to deal with the threat in front of them. So I find it an extremely powerful card, and even though most of the time I was only getting back Neith, I really had a lot of fun playing with Celestial Armor this Gauntlet, and I think there might even be room for one of them in a certain Egyptian deck that I have brewing right now, and I'll share with you guys as soon as I get it all worked out. I believe by the end of the 5 games, the only change I end up making to this deck, outside of what you see at the end of this short deck editing clip, is I removed the Lernaean Hydra and ended up putting in a Blade Master instead. And why I did that was because having a 4/6 charge on 7 is pretty strong, especially if he survives the next turn and you're able to play Isis after him. When he spawns off of the afterlife, he's going to have charge, of course, and because of that, he's able to impact the board again immediately. And that's really, really strong. One other thing to mention is a lot of this deck can probably be played without the legendaries. The only one that I'm really using is Annihilate, and it is a very powerful card in this deck, but it could just be another Blade Master with how much strong afterlife synergy that can be provided and how much possible pressure you're able to put by just curving with the deck. The deck also has a little bit more reach because of Book of Thought providing some long-term, I don't know what you call them, long-term threats or long-term solutions. Either way, if you get a double hit on Annihilate or a double hit on Execute, you usually will be winning the game. It's a very strong play, and you don't want to be casting it in your first couple turns, but if it's that last card you have or the last couple cards you have, or if you have a dominant board position already and you don't want to slam more onto the board, I would consider Book of Thoth an incredibly strong play in those situations. The other unsung hero of this deck is Fury, which is the 6/6 common beast, which is immune to return damage. Now, I don't really like playing this card as much unless I'm playing as Bologna, because when you're playing with Bologna, you're able to move him, I don't know exactly what it is, looks like a her, into position and get that extra 2 movement, so the opponent can't hit him or her, and you can, with 2 mana, move them into position and get that free 6 damage on something, which is incredibly powerful. Now, in this situation, Fury is your ideal first drop. You want to be mulliganing for it if possible. Neath is not a bad first drop as well, but your early game, you're going to want to be having either a Fury, Neath, or something similar. The main thing that you want to avoid is not having an early drop if going first. If going second and you have an Execute in hand, that's completely satisfactory, but it's probably not the ideal play if you're executing their guy on curve. Now, the last character I'd like to talk about, and it's the last one I actually add here, I was debating between Venator and who I eventually add, which is Chieftain. I ended up picking Chieftain because, as it is a 5 costs and above restriction in this Gauntlet, most, if not all, available sources of silence are just not valid here. So as long as you can get a Chieftain building in the back and you're doing some combat, maybe having some of the graveyard tricks and recursion you have built going, you're going to power up that Chieftain really fast. And as they start to try to eat away at your characters that already have afterlife, he'll already become a 10 to 14 power monster that they won't be able to deal with. Alright guys, I'll see you in the games. Bye. Okay guys, first game looks to be a Raw vs. Raw mirror, and this should be the only game that you're going to be seeing the Hydra played. How ineffective he felt in this game was part of the reason I pulled him out for the Blade Master. The main play here is getting the Neath on the board and trying to force a response out of this Fury. While I could have played the Hydra here and then just killed his Fury next turn, I felt that I could have a better play by attacking into this Fury and annihilating his board next turn. So regardless of whether I would have killed whatever he casts after, I felt that because he would have done damage to my Summoning Stone like that, I could have healed and killed whatever he cast, and if needed, coined into something to cast with that heal. And now at this point, on turn 8, dropping this 6-drop, healing and pinging whatever he casts, or just putting some damage on his summoning stone. Either way, I have a lot of options with the Books of Thoth. I just want to get some creatures on the board so that I have a more effective Isis at this point. I have a pretty dominant board position. Only an Essentius would be a difficulty for me to remove. Although with the Book of Thoth, I probably have a lot of options, even though I can't see those options yet. At the same time, him being at 18 life, dropping Isis if he kills none of my creatures, which he'll obviously kill one since he drew that execute last turn. Playing the Isis is not a bad play either. Now here, what I'm doing, I know he has a second execute, so I'm going to play something that is less desirable to execute than even this Hydra here. So it's kind of force him to take some damage off the board and put it into the character I wanted for him to kill. There's a little bit of misplay here. I should have went with the Celestial Armor first before I did that Gift of the Nile there. I thought that's what I was doing, but I fat-fingered it, so no big deal. At this point, I'm getting the occult train going. The other Ra is even telling me how much I rock, so you know, he knows it's pretty bad at this point. Isis in hand is really going to be the thing that seals his fate. I just am going to have too many God recursion abilities to pop off at this point. And here, this is guaranteeing that I will be getting whatever gods I drop going forward. I also have a lot of damage. I have lethal in terms of just doing pure damage to his summoning stone at this point as well. So he's definitely in some trouble. Because I've also lost Occult Deadeye, I can also play the Osiris at this point. Just checking to make sure. Osiris becomes a viable option. Again, I'm ahead on board. So what I'm going to be looking to do is capitalize by gaining some card advantage through the Book of Thoth, and I end up getting the Recruiter and just getting a little bit more on the board. The 4/6 isn't a... he can't die to annihilate, so it's not a big deal. I think this game is pretty much wrapped up. He's not making any attempt to kill what I have. And his 4-lifed summoning stone is quickly going to be smashed. Alright, good game, friend. And I'll see you guys in the next game. So, it looks like we have another Ra vs. Ra mirror match. This time I have a much stronger open. I really couldn't ask for a better starting hand than what I have currently been given. I'm always happy with the Fury starting off. I'm going to play extremely aggressive into this guy's Neath. Obviously not playing on the square that allows him to get free shots into my Fury. And with the Brute, it's a different story. I'm going to be wanting to engage into this Neath. Her only being able to do 2 damage a shot to him. Oh, it looks like he cast a Celestial Armor on his Neath. I don't care about that. I'm just going to drop the Blade Master and put 11 damage onto his Summoning Stone a turn until he tries to do something a little less cute this early in the game and start to address what I already have on the board. The Osiris is going to allow me to kill his Neath and then kill the second one as well off of the Afterlife proc. At this point, it's probably good game. If you have a Brute or a Fury in your opponent's Summoning Stone area with a good amount of life left on him, it's going to be very hard for the opponent to turn that game around. Chieftain was just insurance. Looks like game 3 we have Zeus versus Ra. So we might get a little different gameplay here. May have a little different strategy to beat it, but I'm happy to have gotten this celestial armor here as well. Opponent interestingly plays the baboon. I'm counting off spaces from where the opponent can attack me from. I don't want to engage with this baboon directly, but at the same time, they're going to die eventually. So what I'm going to do is get incredibly aggressive here. Play my Brute forward, hoping that he's going to play the Divine Vengeance here. And what's going to happen is I get an even stronger Chieftain who's out of range of this Artemis. My Osiris takes down the baboon, executing the Artemis, opening up huge plays for just massive damage on this guy's Summoning Stone. And with him not having anything on the board, it's going to be hard for him to come back from this board state. My Osiris is going to trade into what he just casted, and I'm going to drop another threat or two. I don't think he's going to be able to keep up with this pace for very much longer. I'm going to go with the Celestial Armor Deadeye. Really wanting to pull my Neath and Osiris back into play, if possible. Oh, look at that! Oh, that's great. Gonna want to go with the Scarab's Blessing. Next turn, I'll be able to cast them on the Deadeye that already has the Celestial Armor on it and spawn a bunch more of them. What you gonna do about that? There's too much damage for him to deal with. And he concedes. Good game. For game 3, we have another Ra versus Zeus. This time with not the most optimal start. As you can see, I don't want Celestial Armor starting off. What I really want is a creature curve and taking advantage of any missed drops that the opponent is not able to keep pace with me, keep up with my tempo. He Aries my Fury, which is a good play. Otherwise, again, once you get Fury into your opponent's Summoning Stone area, no matter where he drops a creature now, my Fury will have a shot at it. It's pretty much a soft good game. For as long as you're attacking every creature he's dropping, you're not attacking the Summoning Stone, but at the same time, he's not gaining an army while you continually build your hand or your board state with every turn. He looks like he's going for another stun, and I get a little lucky here with the execute off top. I would have probably had to have went for a Book of Thoth and went for some kind of execute play there, which looking at what I pulled, I would haven't got. So that was a very great top deck right there. When you trust in the cards reward you. We just drop in the Neath and quickly closing up this 4th game. I told you these games are really quick with this deck. I hope you have similar success with it. Just going to keep the board clear, drop the Sensuous, and I already have enough damage to kill my opponent with the Blade Master. So, good game, Zeus. For our 5th and final game, we have a Raw versus Raw final. And I am kind of afraid here because I did not have something I could drop on my first turn. So I was considering whether to pitch all 3, including the Brute, or hope that in my first cards I would have redrawn a 5 or 6 drop, which the Chieftain's not always the best first drop, but if I had not dropped the Fury, or drawn the Fury and been able to cast him, it would have been a fine thing to play rather than playing nothing. Unfortunately, he plays the Venator into this Neath and really messes up my game plan there, taking out my Fury in one shot. However, having a Brute with Afterlife is a pain. He's at 14, so 2 shots and his Summoning Stone is finished. And I'm still at full life. So instead of going for the finish, I'm just going to be dropping the Sensuous and clearing the board. So whatever he casts, the Sensuous will hopefully be dealing with it going forward. The opponent looks like he was trying to finish off my Brute back here with Fire Imps. However, I have Protect 2, and I don't think he realized that. I'm going to be setting up my victory formation by playing a Fire Giant of my own, taking a shot at his Summoning Stone, and seeing what he's able to pull off. Offer him the good game, and finish him off in style. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed the games, and please join me on twitch.tv/midnight if you'd like to see some live content. Otherwise, I'll be recording the Marksman video in the next couple days, so stay tuned. Peace out.